In the cool forests and wetlands of the northern world lives a quiet giant whose presence has shaped these landscapes for thousands of years. The moose moves slowly through marshes, lake shores, and dense woodland, feeding on leaves, branches, and aquatic plants while seasons shift around it. With towering legs, immense antlers, and a calm but powerful nature, it is one of the most remarkable animals of the boreal wilderness. Its life is woven into the rhythm of northern forests, where water, vegetation, predators, and changing climates together shape the enduring story of the largest deer on Earth. Part 1. Origins. In the quiet forests and wetlands of the northern world lives an animal whose presence carries the weight of deep time. The moose, known scientifically as Alces alces, is the largest living member of the deer family. Its immense size, towering legs, and wide antlers suggest a creature shaped by powerful evolutionary forces. To understand the moose fully, it is necessary to travel far back into the ancient past, to the origins of the deer lineage and the landscapes that gave rise to these giants of the northern forests. The family to which the moose belongs, Cervidae, began to emerge during the Miocene epoch, a period that started roughly 23 million years ago. Early members of this group were small forest dwellers that browsed on leaves and shoots beneath dense canopies. Over millions of years, they diversified into many forms, adapting to grasslands, mountains, wetlands, and boreal forests. Some remained delicate and lightly built, while others evolved into large and powerful animals capable of surviving in harsh northern climates. The lineage that would eventually lead to the moose began separating from other deer several million years ago. Fossil evidence suggests that ancestors of the genus Alces appeared in Eurasia during the late Pliocene. These early forms were already larger than most deer and possessed elongated legs suited for moving through marshy landscapes and snowy terrain. Over time, their bodies became even larger, an adaptation that helped them retain heat and endure long winters in northern regions. Among the extinct relatives of the moose were several impressive species that roamed across Eurasia and North America during the Ice Age. One of these was Alces latifrons, sometimes called the broad-fronted moose. This ancient animal was even larger than modern moose, with a massive skull and enormous antlers that spread wide above its head. These prehistoric giants inhabited cold forests and wetlands during periods when glaciers advanced and retreated across the northern continents. During the Pleistocene epoch, repeated cycles of glaciation shaped the distribution of many northern animals. Vast ice sheets covered large portions of North America and Eurasia, pushing wildlife into refuges where they could survive. Moose ancestors adapted to these shifting conditions by becoming increasingly specialized for life in cold, wet environments filled with shrubs, young trees, and aquatic plants. The modern species, Alces alces, eventually emerged from these ancient populations. As glaciers retreated and forests expanded, moose spread across large parts of the northern hemisphere. Today, they inhabit a broad belt of boreal forest and temperate woodland, stretching across Scandinavia, Russia, Canada, Alaska, and parts of the northern United States. Despite this wide distribution, the fundamental features of the animal remain shaped by the same ancient pressures that molded its ancestors. The moose differs from other deer in several remarkable ways. Its long legs elevate the body high above the ground, allowing it to move through deep snow and thick marsh vegetation. These legs also help the animal wade easily into lakes and wetlands, where many of its preferred foods grow. The body is massive and heavily muscled, often weighing several hundred kilograms. Such size provides important advantages in cold climates, where a large body retains heat more efficiently than a small one. The head of the moose is long and distinctive, with a broad muzzle and flexible upper lip. This lip is highly mobile and acts almost like a small grasping tool, allowing the animal to strip leaves, pluck twigs, and pull aquatic plants from beneath the water's surface. The nostrils are large and the nasal passages are long, helping to warm frigid air before it reaches the lungs during winter. Another unusual feature is the flap of skin hanging beneath the throat, sometimes called a bell or dewlap. The exact function of this structure is not entirely clear, though it may play a role in communication or visual signaling during social interactions. Such features remind observers that even familiar animals often carry mysteries within their anatomy. Perhaps the most striking characteristic of the moose is the set of antlers carried by adult males. These antlers are the largest of any living deer and can spread more than 1.5 meters from tip to tip. Each year, a bull moose grows a completely new pair. During the spring and summer, the antlers expand rapidly, covered in a soft skin known as velvet that supplies blood and nutrients to the growing bone. At the peak of growth, antlers may lengthen by several centimeters in a single day, making them among the fastest growing tissues in the animal kingdom. When autumn approaches, the velvet dries and is shed as the bull rubs his antlers against tree trunks and branches. The polished bone that remains becomes a powerful display structure used during the mating season. Though these antlers appear formidable, they are temporary. Once winter arrives, the bull sheds them and begins the cycle again the following year. The moose is not only remarkable for its size and antlers, but also for its sensory world. Its eyesight is relatively limited, yet its hearing and sense of smell are highly developed. Large ears rotate independently, allowing the animal to detect sounds from multiple directions. The nose can pick up faint scents carried by the wind, warning of predators or revealing the presence of other moose in the surrounding forest. Despite its massive build, the moose can move with surprising quietness. When walking through dense woodland, it often places each hoof carefully, producing little sound. This ability likely helped its ancestors avoid predators during ancient times when large carnivores roamed the northern landscapes. Modern moose populations still carry the legacy of those ancient ecosystems. Their bodies reflect millions of years of adaptation to cold climates, wetlands, and forested environments rich in shrubs and aquatic vegetation. They stand as living representatives of an evolutionary path, shaped by glaciers, forests, and the relentless demands of northern winters. The story of the moose therefore begins long before the present day. It stretches back through ages of climatic change and ecological transformation, through ancient forests and ice age landscapes where giant mammals once wandered. From those distant beginnings emerged the towering animal that now browses quietly among northern lakes and woodlands, continuing a lineage that has endured for millions of years. Part 2. Habitats. Across the northern regions of the world where the moose now lives, the landscape is defined by forests, wetlands, lakes, and long winters. These environments form the essential setting for the life of this large deer. The moose is closely tied to cool climates and to habitats where water and vegetation meet. It is an animal of the boreal forest, of marshy clearings, slow rivers, and quiet lakes whose edges are rich with shrubs and aquatic plants. The distribution of the species stretches across a wide band of the northern hemisphere. In North America, the moose occupies large areas of Canada and Alaska, as well as parts of the northern United States. In Eurasia, it inhabits Scandinavia, the Baltic region, much of Russia, and sections of Eastern Europe and Northern Asia. Despite this immense range, the habitats it chooses share certain common features. There is usually a mixture of forest cover, young vegetation suitable for browsing, and access to water. Forests provide both food and shelter. Moose prefer landscapes where trees grow in scattered stands, with openings between them, rather than in extremely dense woodland. Areas recovering from natural disturbances, such as fires, storms, or insect outbreaks, often create ideal conditions. When older trees fall or burn, sunlight reaches the ground and encourages the growth of young shrubs and saplings. These new plants produce tender leaves and shoots that moose readily consume. The boreal forest, sometimes called the taiga, represents one of the most important habitats for moose. This vast belt of woodland stretches across northern North America and Eurasia. Coniferous trees such as spruce, fir, and pine dominate much of the region, yet the edges of rivers, lakes, and clearings often support deciduous plants like willow, birch, and aspen. These species produce abundant foliage that serves as an important source of nourishment for moose throughout the year. Water plays a central role in the daily life of these animals. Lakes, ponds, and slow-moving rivers are more than simple landmarks in the landscape. They are feeding grounds, resting places, and refuges from heat and insects. During warm months, moose frequently enter the water and remain there for long periods. Standing chest deep in a lake allows the animal to cool its large body, while feeding on plants that grow beneath the surface. Aquatic vegetation forms a valuable portion of the moose diet during summer. Plants such as pondweed, water lilies, and other submerged species are rich in minerals that may be scarce in land vegetation. To reach these foods, the moose often lowers its head completely underwater. In some cases, the animal even submerges most of its body, with only the upper part of the back or the tips of its antlers visible above the surface. It may remain underwater for several moments while pulling stems and leaves from the lake bed. The ability to swim is another feature that allows moose to use aquatic habitats fully. These large animals are strong swimmers, capable of traveling long distances through lakes and rivers. They move steadily through the water with powerful strokes of their long legs, sometimes covering several kilometers without stopping. This ability allows them to reach islands, cross broad waterways, and explore feeding areas that other land mammals might find inaccessible. Wetlands and marshes are also important environments. These places often support thick growths of shrubs and young trees that provide abundant browsing opportunities. The long legs of the moose allow it to move through mud and shallow water where many other animals would struggle. Large hooves spread widely when the animal steps, distributing its weight and preventing it from sinking deeply into soft ground. Seasonal changes shape the way moose use their habitat. During summer, they often remain close to lakes and wetlands, where aquatic plants are plentiful. The cool water also helps them regulate body temperature. Moose are animals adapted to cold climates, and heat can be a serious challenge for them. When temperatures rise, standing in water or resting in shaded forests helps prevent overheating. As autumn approaches, the landscape gradually changes. Leaves begin to fall and aquatic plants become less abundant. Moose shift their feeding patterns toward woody vegetation such as twigs, bark, and buds. Forest edges and young growth areas continue to provide essential resources. During this season, the animals also move more widely as the mating period begins, and bulls search for females across large territories. Winter transforms the northern habitats of the moose in dramatic ways. Snow may cover the ground for many months, sometimes reaching great depths. For many animals, such conditions create severe hardship. The moose, however, possesses several adaptations that allow it to continue moving and feeding even in deep snow. Its long legs lift the body high above the surface, and its large hooves spread apart to support its weight. In winter, moose often concentrate in areas where the forest canopy intercepts some of the snowfall, reducing the depth on the ground below. These places, sometimes called winter yards, allow the animals to move more easily between feeding sites. Within these areas, moose create networks of trails that they follow repeatedly. Over time, these paths become well-worn routes through the snow, used day after day as the animals travel between resting places and sources of food. Movement during winter tends to be slower and more deliberate. Moose conserve energy by limiting unnecessary travel. Food is less abundant than in summer, and the energy required to push through deep snow can be considerable. For this reason, the animals often remain within relatively small home ranges until the snow begins to melt. Despite the harshness of northern winters, the moose remains remarkably well suited to these environments. Its thick fur provides excellent insulation, with hollow hairs that trap air and retain warmth close to the body. Beneath this outer coat lies a dense layer of underfur that further protects against the cold. Through the changing seasons of forest, marsh, lake, and snow, the habitat of the moose reveals a landscape defined by water, vegetation, and climate. These environments shape every aspect of the animal's life, from its feeding habits and seasonal movements to its strategies for coping with heat and winter cold. Within this northern world of quiet wetlands and endless forest, the moose moves steadily through a habitat that has supported its kind for thousands of years. Part 3. Predators. Life in the northern forests and wetlands where the moose lives is not free from danger. Although the moose is one of the largest herbivores in its environment, it shares the landscape with several powerful predators. These relationships between hunter and prey have shaped the behavior, movements, and defensive abilities of the species over thousands of years. The most important natural predator of the moose across much of its range is the wolf. Packs of wolves roam through the boreal forests of North America and Eurasia, searching for animals that can provide enough food to sustain the group. Because the moose is so large, it represents an enormous source of nourishment. A single adult moose can feed a wolf pack for several days. Yet the size of the moose also makes it a difficult and dangerous target. Healthy adult individuals are rarely attacked unless wolves believe they can gain an advantage. Instead, wolf packs usually focus on calves, elderly animals, or individuals weakened by disease, injury, or deep winter snow. Such animals are less able to defend themselves or escape. When wolves hunt moose, they rely on cooperation and endurance. The pack often attempts to tire the animal by pursuing it over long distances. Deep snow can slow the movements of the moose, while wolves with lighter bodies and wide paws move more easily across the surface. Over time, the wolves attempt to isolate the animal and approach from several directions, looking for an opportunity to bring it down. Even so, the hunt remains dangerous. A moose possesses powerful legs capable of delivering devastating blows. With a single kick, it can break bones or severely injure a predator. Wolves therefore approach cautiously, circling and testing the animal's defenses before attempting to attack. The encounter may last a long time before either side succeeds or withdraws. In areas where wolves and moose coexist, this predator-prey relationship forms an important part of the ecosystem. Wolves help regulate moose populations by removing weaker individuals, while the presence of wolves influences how moose move through their habitat and how long they remain in certain areas. In parts of North America, another formidable predator also shares the moose's range, the brown bear, known on that continent as the grizzly bear. Brown bears are powerful omnivores capable of hunting large animals, particularly during spring when moose calves are born. At this time, young calves are small and vulnerable, making them easier targets than adults. Mother moose respond to this danger with intense protectiveness. During the first weeks of a calf's life, the female remains close and reacts aggressively to approaching predators. If a bear or wolf comes too near, the mother may charge with surprising speed. Her long legs and strong hooves can inflict serious injury, and many predators learn to approach cautiously when a cow moose is defending her young. Black bears, which inhabit many of the same forests in North America, also prey on moose calves when the opportunity arises. Although black bears are generally smaller than brown bears, they are agile climbers and skilled hunters. Calves hidden in vegetation may sometimes be discovered by these opportunistic predators. Despite these threats, the greatest dangers usually affect the youngest members of the population. Adult moose are formidable animals whose size alone deters many predators. A full-grown bull may weigh several hundred kilograms and stand taller than most animals in its environment. Even wolves approach such an opponent with caution. The moose has developed several behaviors that help it respond to threats. One of these is vigilance. While feeding or resting, a moose frequently lifts its head and turns its ears to detect sounds from the surrounding forest. Each ear can rotate independently, allowing the animal to locate the direction of a faint noise. At the same time, its powerful sense of smell samples the air for scents carried by the wind. If danger is detected, the moose may quietly move away through the trees. Despite its great size, it is capable of surprisingly silent movement, placing its hooves carefully on the forest floor. This ability can allow the animal to disappear into thick vegetation before a predator draws close enough to attack. When escape becomes necessary, the moose can run with impressive speed. It may reach speeds exceeding 50 kilometers per hour for short distances, using its long legs to cover ground rapidly. In forests with thick undergrowth, this height gives it an advantage, allowing it to step over obstacles that might slow a pursuing predator. Water also serves as a refuge. Moose are strong swimmers and often enter lakes or rivers when threatened. In deep water, wolves lose much of their ability to attack effectively. The moose, with its long legs and powerful body, can move steadily through the water and sometimes cross to the opposite shore or reach islands where predators cannot easily follow. Another defensive behavior involves the use of the moose's powerful hooves. When cornered or defending a calf, the animal may strike with front or hind legs. These kicks are delivered with great force and can injure or kill a predator that approaches too closely. For this reason, even large carnivores approach cautiously, searching for weaknesses rather than confronting a healthy adult directly. Predation therefore shapes the life of the moose in subtle ways. It influences where animals travel, how they watch their surroundings, and how mothers guard their calves. At the same time, predators depend on moose as an important source of food within northern ecosystems. Through this long relationship between hunter and hunted, both predator and prey have evolved strategies for survival. Wolves rely on teamwork and persistence, bears on strength and opportunity, while the moose relies on size, vigilance, and powerful defenses. Together, they form part of a complex web of life that has existed across northern forests and wetlands for thousands of years. Part 4. Food. The moose is a herbivore whose life revolves around the constant search for vegetation. Because of its immense size, it requires a large quantity of food each day, and its feeding habits influence the forests and wetlands in which it lives. Throughout the seasons, the animal moves through its habitat, browsing on leaves, shoots, bark, and aquatic plants, shaping the vegetation around it in quiet but significant ways. Unlike many hoofed mammals that graze on grass, the moose is primarily a browser. This means it feeds on the leaves and twigs of shrubs and young trees, rather than on grasses growing close to the ground. The animal's tall stature allows it to reach vegetation that would be unavailable to smaller deer. Its long legs raise its head high above the forest floor, while its flexible lips help it grasp branches and strip leaves with remarkable precision. The muzzle of the moose is broad and muscular, and the upper lip can move independently with great dexterity. This structure acts almost like a small hand, allowing the animal to pull foliage toward its mouth. With a slight twist of the head, it can break tender shoots or strip bark from slender branches. These adaptations allow the moose to feed efficiently among dense thickets of shrubs and saplings. During the warmer months, the diet of the moose becomes especially varied. New leaves appear on trees and shrubs, providing tender and nutritious food. Plants such as willow, birch, and aspen are commonly eaten. The animal moves slowly through forest clearings and wetland edges, browsing steadily as it travels. Rather than remaining in one place for long periods, the moose often feeds while walking, selecting leaves and shoots from many different plants along its path. The quantity of food required by such a large animal is considerable. During summer, an adult moose may consume more than 30 kilograms of vegetation in a single day. To gather this amount, the animal spends many hours browsing. Its movements through the forest are deliberate and unhurried, allowing it to feed continuously while remaining alert to its surroundings. Water plants form another important component of the moose diet during summer. Lakes, ponds, and slow rivers often support abundant growths of aquatic vegetation rich in minerals. These plants provide nutrients that may be scarce in terrestrial leaves and twigs. To obtain them, the moose frequently enters the water and wades among submerged stems. While feeding in lakes, the animal often lowers its head completely beneath the surface. Its long legs allow it to stand comfortably in water that would submerge many other animals. Sometimes the entire body sinks below the surface, except for the upper back or the tips of the antlers. The moose may remain underwater for several moments, while grasping stems of pondweed or the roots of water lilies. Such behavior is made possible by the moose's ability to hold its breath for short periods while diving. Though it is primarily a land animal, it moves easily through water and can swim with great strength. After collecting a mouthful of plants, it raises its head again, chewing slowly as droplets fall from its muzzle. Aquatic feeding also helps the moose regulate its body temperature. These animals are well adapted to cold climates and possess thick insulating fur. During warm weather, they may experience heat stress if temperatures rise too high. Standing in cool water while feeding provides relief from the heat and also reduces the annoyance of biting insects that gather around warm-blooded animals. As autumn approaches, the availability of leafy vegetation begins to decline. Leaves fall from trees, and many aquatic plants die back as temperatures drop. the moose gradually shifts its diet toward woody material. Twigs, buds, and bark become increasingly important sources of nourishment during this time. Young trees and shrubs continue to provide food throughout the colder months. Moose commonly browse on willow, birch, and other hardy plants, whose branches remain accessible above the snow. Using its flexible lips, the animal strips bark and bites off small branches. Though such food is tougher and less nutritious than summer foliage, it allows the moose to survive through long winters. Winter feeding often takes place within areas where vegetation is dense and snow depth is somewhat reduced beneath the forest canopy. Here, the moose moves slowly between feeding sites along trails that it uses repeatedly. These paths allow it to conserve energy by avoiding the need to break fresh trails through deep snow. In addition to leaves and twigs, moose occasionally consume unusual items that provide important minerals. They have been observed chewing on shed antlers, bones, or other natural materials found on the forest floor. Such behavior likely supplies nutrients such as calcium and phosphorus that may be scarce in their plant-based diet. The act of feeding also shapes the vegetation of the habitats where moose live. By browsing heavily on young trees and shrubs, they influence which plants grow successfully in certain areas. In some places, their feeding can limit the growth of particular species, while allowing others to flourish. Through these interactions, the moose becomes an important participant in the ecological balance of northern forests and wetlands. Thus, the search for food guides much of the daily life of this great deer. From the tender leaves of summer shrubs to the submerged plants of quiet lakes, and finally to the woody branches that sustain it through winter, the moose adapts its feeding habits to the changing seasons. Its powerful body, flexible lips, and ability to move through forest and water alike allow it to gather nourishment in many different ways, ensuring its survival in the challenging landscapes of the northern world. Part 5. Family life. The cycle of family life among moose follows the changing rhythm of the northern seasons. Though these animals spend much of the year alone, the period of reproduction brings them briefly together, and from these encounters, the next generation emerges. The raising of calves is a quiet yet demanding chapter in the life of the species, shaped by careful timing, strong maternal care, and the constant challenges of the natural world. The reproductive season of the moose occurs during early autumn, a time often referred to as the rut. As summer fades and cooler air spreads through the forests, the behavior of adult males changes noticeably. Bulls become more restless and begin searching for females across the landscape. Their movements increase, and they travel through forests and wetlands while listening for the presence of cows. During this season, bulls advertise their presence through deep, resonant calls. These low grunts carry through the forest and serve both to attract females and to signal strength to rival males. The calls are often accompanied by dramatic displays. A bull may thrash bushes and small trees with his antlers, tearing leaves and branches while scattering vegetation across the ground. These displays demonstrate physical power and help establish dominance in areas where several males may be searching for mates. The large antlers that bulls grow each year play an important role in these encounters. During the months before the rut, the antlers are covered in a soft skin known as velvet, which supplies blood to the rapidly growing bone. As autumn approaches, the velvet dries and is shed when the bull rubs his antlers against trees. The polished antlers that remain become formidable structures used during contests between males. When two bulls meet during the rut, They may engage in displays of strength that sometimes escalate into direct combat. The animals lower their heads and clash their antlers together, pushing and twisting as each tries to overpower the other. These battles can be intense, yet they usually end when one of the competitors withdraws. The victorious bull gains the opportunity to remain near receptive females. Amid this period of competition, cows select mates and mating occurs. Once the rut ends, the lives of males and females separate once again. Bulls gradually lose interest in the mating contests and begin to wander more quietly through the forest as winter approaches. Eventually, their antlers are shed, leaving them once again without the large structures that defined the autumn season. For the female moose, however, the events of the rut mark the beginning of a long period of gestation. Pregnancy lasts roughly 8 months, spanning the cold months of winter and early spring. During this time, the cow must rely on stored energy and whatever food she can obtain from twigs and bark while snow covers much of the vegetation. As spring approaches and the snow begins to melt, the cow seeks a place where she can give birth in relative safety. Dense vegetation, young forests, or quiet wetlands often provide suitable cover. These locations help conceal the newborn calves during their earliest and most vulnerable days. Birth usually occurs in late spring, a time when new plant growth is beginning to appear across the landscape. The timing is important. Fresh leaves and shoots provide the mother with abundant nutrition, allowing her to produce milk for her young. At the same time, the warmer weather offers a more hospitable environment for the calves. A cow moose commonly gives birth to one calf, though twins are not unusual when food resources are plentiful. The newborn calves are long-legged and covered in reddish-brown fur that helps them blend into their surroundings. Within a short time after birth, they attempt to stand, their legs unsteady at first, but gradually gaining strength. The ability to move soon after birth is essential. Although the mother chooses secluded places for calving, predators such as bears and wolves may still roam the area. By standing and walking within a few hours, the calves are able to follow their mother if she needs to move them to a safer location. During the first weeks of life, the calves remain close to the cow. She watches them carefully and responds quickly to potential danger. If a predator approaches, the mother may charge with remarkable determination. Her powerful legs and sharp hooves become formidable weapons when defending her offspring. Such aggressive defense often discourages predators from approaching too closely. The bond between mother and calf is maintained through quiet communication. Calves produce soft bleating sounds when they wish to attract the mother's attention or when they feel uncertain. The cow responds with low grunts that guide the young animals toward her. Through these simple signals, the pair maintains contact even when vegetation obscures their view of one another. As the weeks pass, the calves grow rapidly. Their legs strengthen, and they begin to explore the surrounding habitat more confidently. At times, young calves engage in playful behavior, chasing each other in short bursts of energy. These playful movements help develop coordination and agility, skills that will become important as they mature. Throughout summer, the calves rely heavily on their mother's milk, but they gradually begin sampling vegetation as well. Leaves, shoots, and tender plants become part of their diet as they observe the browsing habits of the cow. By autumn, they are capable of feeding on the same foods as adults. Even as the calves gain independence, they continue traveling with their mother through their first year of life. Together, they move through forests and wetlands, following feeding routes and resting areas that the cow knows well. This period allows the young animals to learn the seasonal patterns of their environment. Eventually, the time comes when the young moose must begin their own journeys. As the next mating season approaches, the bond between mother and offspring gradually weakens. The young animals disperse into surrounding territories, seeking their own paths through the vast northern landscapes. Through this quiet cycle of mating, birth, and growth, the population of moose renews itself year after year. The careful timing of reproduction, the strong maternal protection of calves, and the rapid development of the young all contribute to the survival of a species that must endure the demanding conditions of northern forests and wetlands. Part 6. Social bonds. Although the moose is often described as a solitary animal, its life is still shaped by a range of social interactions. These relationships are subtle and usually brief, yet they play an important role in the survival and reproduction of the species. Within forests and wetlands where moose live, individuals constantly encounter traces of others, communicate through scent and sound, and occasionally meet face-to-face in ways that reveal a quiet but complex social world. For much of the year, adult moose live alone. A single animal may travel slowly through a wide home range, browsing on vegetation and resting in secluded areas. Yet this apparent solitude does not mean complete isolation. Each individual leaves behind signals that others can detect. Scent marks on vegetation, tracks pressed into soft soil, and broken branches where a moose has fed all communicate information to other animals moving through the same landscape. Scent is especially important. Moose possess a strong sense of smell, and odors carried on the wind allow them to detect the presence of others even when they remain out of sight. These chemical signals can reveal whether another moose has recently passed through an area and sometimes indicate the sex or reproductive condition of the animal that left them. During the mating season, the exchange of signals becomes more intense. Bulls travel widely in search of females, and cows advertise their readiness to mate through scent and vocal calls. When individuals draw near to one another, a series of behaviors often unfolds before physical contact occurs. A bull encountering a cow may approach slowly, testing the air with his nose. The cow may respond with low calls or remain silent while assessing the male. These encounters are careful and deliberate, shaped by instinct and by the need to avoid unnecessary conflict. If the cow is receptive, the pair may remain together for a short time before mating takes place. Interactions between bulls are often more dramatic. Rival males sometimes meet in areas where females are present. At first, they may simply observe one another from a distance, standing tall and displaying their antlers. These displays allow each animal to judge the strength of the other. Often, the contest ends at this stage, with one bull turning away and leaving the area. When neither male retreats, the encounter may escalate into physical combat. The bulls lower their heads and bring their antlers together, pushing with great force as each attempts to gain advantage. Their hooves dig into the soil while their muscles strain in the struggle. Though these battles can appear violent, they rarely result in serious injury. Eventually, one animal yields and withdraws, leaving the victor to remain near the females. Outside the mating season, such confrontations become uncommon. Bulls and cows return to their largely solitary routines. Yet even then, their home ranges may overlap with those of other individuals. In areas with abundant food, several moose may use the same feeding grounds at different times. Though they seldom gather in large groups, they may occasionally be seen feeding within sight of one another, while maintaining a respectful distance. Among the most enduring relationships in the life of a moose is the bond between a mother and her calves. After birth, the cow remains close to her young, guiding them through their environment and protecting them from danger. During this period, communication between mother and calves is gentle but constant. Calves produce soft bleating sounds when they seek reassurance or wish to locate their mother. These calls are quiet and often brief, allowing communication without attracting unnecessary attention from predators. The mother answers with low grunts that signal her presence and guide the calves toward her. Young moose also interact with one another, particularly when twins are born. Siblings may remain close while traveling with their mother and sometimes engage in playful activity. They may run in short bursts across open ground, circle one another, or gently push with their heads. These playful interactions help develop coordination and physical strength. As calves grow older, they begin exploring their surroundings more independently. Still, they remain within the protective range of their mother's awareness. If danger appears, the cow quickly gathers her calves close and may position herself between them and the threat. Her vigilance and readiness to defend them are essential for their survival during the early months of life. The social connections between siblings gradually weaken as the animals mature. When the time comes for young moose to disperse, they leave the territory where they were born and begin establishing their own ranges. This dispersal reduces competition for food and helps maintain genetic diversity within the population. Even after dispersal, the lives of individual moose continue to intersect occasionally. Their trails cross at feeding sites, along lake shores, or through the narrow corridors that wind between forests and wetlands. In winter especially, several animals may use the same network of packed trails created in the snow. These paths allow easier travel through deep drifts and may be shared by multiple individuals moving through the same region. Despite these moments of proximity, moose rarely form permanent social groups. Their lifestyle remains largely solitary, shaped by the scattered nature of the vegetation on which they depend. Food sources such as shrubs and young trees are spread across wide areas, encouraging animals to maintain distance from one another while browsing. Yet within this quiet pattern of separation, there exists a subtle network of relationships. Through scent, sound, and occasional encounters, moose remain connected to others of their kind. Bulls compete for mates, cows raise their calves with attentive care, and young animals gradually learn the habits of the landscape before setting out on their own. These interactions reveal that even a species known for solitude participates in a delicate social balance. Within the silent forests and wetlands of the north, the lives of moose intertwine briefly but meaningfully, forming a quiet community shaped by instinct, territory, and the changing seasons. Part 7. Rivals. Within the northern forests and wetlands where moose live, their presence influences a wide variety of other animals. Though they are solitary browsers, their size, feeding habits, and seasonal behaviors create connections with many different species. Some of these animals compete with moose for food, others benefit from the resources moose leave behind, and some interact with them in more subtle ways that form quiet partnerships within the ecosystem. One of the most direct forms of rivalry occurs between moose and other large herbivores that share the same habitat. In many parts of North America and Eurasia, deer species such as red deer, elk, and white-tailed deer occupy overlapping ranges with moose. These animals browse on similar plants, particularly young shrubs and the tender shoots of trees. When food is abundant, the presence of multiple herbivores may cause little conflict. However, in seasons when vegetation becomes scarce, these species may compete indirectly for the same limited resources. Because the moose feeds at greater heights than most deer, it often reaches branches and foliage that smaller animals cannot easily access. This difference reduces competition to some degree. Moose typically browse on twigs and leaves that grow higher above the ground, while smaller deer feed on lower vegetation. Even so, areas with heavy browsing pressure may experience noticeable changes in plant growth as multiple herbivores feed upon the same species of shrubs. In parts of northern Europe, moose sometimes share their habitat with reindeer. Reindeer tend to graze more heavily on lichens and ground vegetation, yet they also browse on shrubs during certain seasons. Although direct confrontations between these species are uncommon, they influence one another through their collective effect on the landscape's vegetation. The moose also interacts with many animals in ways that are less competitive and more cooperative or opportunistic. One example involves birds that forage among the thick fur covering the animal's body. Moose often attract numerous insects, especially during the warmer months, when mosquitoes and biting flies become abundant in northern wetlands. Certain bird species take advantage of this situation. Small birds such as grey jays, magpies, and sometimes blackbirds may approach a moose and pick insects from its coat. These birds obtain an easy meal, while the moose benefits from the removal of irritating parasites. Although the animal does not rely on these birds in the same way that some large mammals rely on specialized cleaning partners, the interaction still represents a small moment of cooperation within the ecosystem. Moose also influence other animals through their feeding behavior. As they browse on shrubs and break branches, they create openings in dense vegetation. These disturbances can encourage new plant growth that benefits smaller herbivores such as hares and rodents. In this way, the feeding habits of a large browser indirectly shape the environment for many other creatures. Another fascinating interaction involves the antlers of male moose. Each winter, bulls shed their enormous antlers after the mating season ends. These structures fall quietly to the forest floor, where they become valuable resources for many smaller animals. Rodents, such as mice, voles, and squirrels, often gnaw on shed antlers. Though the antlers are made primarily of bone, they contain important minerals such as calcium and phosphorus. For small mammals whose diets consist mostly of seeds, bark, or plant material, these nutrients can be difficult to obtain. By chewing on antlers, rodents supplement their diet with essential minerals that support the growth of their own bones and teeth. Porcupines are also known to chew on antlers, as well as on bones and wooden objects, for similar reasons. Over time, the antlers that once crowned a bull's head gradually disappear as many animals consume them piece by piece. In this way, the structures that served as weapons during the mating season become a source of nourishment for smaller members of the forest community. Insects, too, play a role in the life of the moose. During summer, large numbers of biting flies and mosquitoes gather around these animals, attracted by their warmth and scent. Moose often respond by seeking relief in water, standing in lakes or marshes where insects are less able to reach them. This behavior demonstrates how even tiny creatures can influence the movements of such a massive animal. Parasites such as winter ticks can also affect moose populations. These small arachnids attach to the skin and feed on the animal's blood. In years when tick populations become extremely large, thousands may gather on a single moose. The irritation caused by these parasites may lead the animal to scratch and rub against trees in an effort to relieve the discomfort. Large scavengers also benefit from the presence of moose within the ecosystem. When a moose dies, whether from natural causes or predation, Its massive body provides food for many animals. Wolves, bears, foxes, ravens, and other scavengers may gather at the carcass. Even after the larger animals have fed, smaller creatures continue to consume what remains. Birds such as ravens and eagles are often among the first to locate a carcass. Their keen eyesight allows them to spot remains from high above the forest. They feed on the meat and sometimes help lead other scavengers to the site. In this way, the death of a single moose can sustain many animals across the landscape. Even during life, the moose shapes the community around it. Trails created by its repeated movements through forests and wetlands are often used by other animals. Smaller mammals, birds, and even predators may follow these paths because they provide easier travel through thick vegetation or deep snow. Through these many interactions, the moose becomes more than a solitary herbivore moving quietly through northern forests. It acts as a powerful ecological presence whose behaviors influence plants, insects, birds, rodents, and large mammals alike. Its browsing shapes vegetation, its antlers nourish small animals, and its movements create pathways across the landscape. Within the vast ecosystems of the northern world, the moose stands not only as an individual animal, but also as a central participant in a complex network of life. Each season brings new interactions with other species, weaving the great deer into the intricate balance of the forests and wetlands it inhabits. Part 8. Human History. For thousands of years, the presence of the moose has shaped the lives and traditions of human communities across the northern forests of the world. Long before written history, people encountered these large animals while traveling through woodlands, along rivers, and across marshy landscapes. Their size, strength, and ability to survive harsh winters made them both an important resource and a powerful symbol in the cultures of many northern peoples. Archaeological discoveries show that humans have hunted moose since prehistoric times. Stone tools and ancient carvings reveal that early hunters relied on these animals for food, clothing, and materials necessary for survival in cold climates. A single moose could provide a large quantity of meat, as well as hides that could be transformed into warm garments, footwear, and shelter coverings. The bones and antlers of the animal were also valuable. Antlers could be shaped into tools, spear points, or handles, while bones were used to create needles, hooks, and other implements. In this way, the entire animal became part of the daily life of early human communities living within northern ecosystems. Many indigenous cultures of North America developed deep relationships with the moose. Among peoples living across the boreal forests of Canada and Alaska, the animal has long been respected as both a source of sustenance and a symbol of strength and endurance. Traditional knowledge passed through generations includes detailed understanding of moose behavior, seasonal movements, and the landscapes where they can be found. Hunting practices were often guided by respect and careful observation. Hunters learned to read tracks in snow or mud, recognize feeding signs on shrubs, and listen for subtle sounds in the forest. Because moose are quiet and often solitary, successful hunting required patience and skill. Stories and teachings within many communities emphasize gratitude toward the animal and responsible use of the resources it provides. Across northern Europe and Russia, moose also appear prominently in human history. In Scandinavia, the animal has long been known as the elk, and it has been a familiar presence in forests for thousands of years. Ancient rock carvings discovered in Sweden and Norway depict moose figures alongside other animals and human hunters. These carvings, created thousands of years ago, reveal how important the species was to early inhabitants of the region. The impressive antlers of the bull moose have often inspired fascination and symbolism. Their great size and branching form suggest power and vitality, qualities that many cultures have admired. In some traditions, the moose has been associated with resilience and the quiet strength required to survive northern winters. As human societies expanded and technologies changed, the relationship between people and moose also evolved. Firearms replaced earlier hunting tools, and roads and settlements began spreading into forests that once remained largely undisturbed. In some regions, this expansion reduced moose populations, particularly during periods when hunting pressure became too intense. Yet in many areas, the species proved remarkably adaptable. Moose often thrive in landscapes where forests have been disturbed by logging or natural fires. These events encourage the growth of young shrubs and saplings, which provide abundant food for browsing animals. As a result, certain human activities have unintentionally created habitats that support large moose populations. At the same time, the growing presence of people in northern environments has introduced new challenges. Roads now cross many of the regions where moose live, and encounters between vehicles and animals sometimes occur. Because moose are tall and heavy, such collisions can be dangerous for both the animal and the people involved. In many countries, warning signs appear along highways where moose frequently cross. Moose have also become a familiar subject in modern culture. In Canada and parts of Scandinavia, they are widely recognized symbols of the northern wilderness. Their distinctive shape, with long legs and broad antlers, appears in artwork, literature, and even humorous stories that celebrate the character of the animal. Wildlife observation has become another important connection between humans and moose. Many people travel to northern forests and national parks, hoping to glimpse one of these large deer quietly browsing near a lake or moving through morning mist among the trees. Such encounters often leave a lasting impression because of the calm dignity and immense size of the animal. Despite these peaceful experiences, moose remain wild animals capable of defending themselves when threatened. A cow protecting her calf or a bull during the autumn mating season may react aggressively if approached too closely. For this reason, people living in moose country learn to respect the animal's space and observe it from a safe distance. Throughout history, the relationship between humans and moose has been shaped by both dependence and admiration. Early hunters relied on the animal for survival, while modern societies often view it as an emblem of the wild landscapes that still exist in the north. Across centuries and cultures, the moose has remained a powerful presence in the human imagination. Within forests, wetlands, and lakeshores where people and moose share the land, this ancient relationship continues. Quiet encounters in misty clearings, the discovery of tracks along a riverbank, or the sight of a bull's antlers rising above tall shrubs, all remind observers that the great deer of the north remains an enduring companion to human history in these vast and often silent landscapes. The end.